So let me formally start the program today. I think we have a sufficient number of participants, as I can see from the screen. Uh, His Excellency Mr. Upendra Singh Rawat, our Ambassador of India to Panama, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua. Mr. Nalin Kohli, Chairman IndiaSoft and past Chairman ESE. Mr. Paul Travoy, President Camtech, Costa Rica. Colleagues from the Indian Embassy, distinguished delegates and friends. Good morning to all of you in Costa Rica and very good evening to friends joining from India.
Good
I
evening.
have great pleasure in introducing today's session, specially convened to facilitate exchange of views and contacts between Indian IT companies and their potential partners from Costa Rica and Panama. Though separated by thousands of miles, India and Costa Rica enjoy very friendly ties. It's true that though our engagements have not been very visible, but that does not in any way undermine importance of our relations. Our relationship is founded on principles of cooperation, mutual understanding, and support for one another whenever required. Costa Rica is among the nations that are moving fast on development and environment parameters and is focused on sustainable development. With its potential and social stability, vital ecological tourism, and biodiversity conservation, Costa Rica has a lot to offer to the world. On the other hand, India has emerged as one of the largest economies in the world with rapid development in the fields of agriculture, science, technology, and entrepreneurship. And here lies the scope for expanding our partnerships. With tremendous advances in science, technology, and innovations, India offers a plethora of opportunities for partners from Costa Rica. I'm sure today's session will be another important step in bringing our two economies closer. IndiaSoft 2021 has nearly 150 companies virtually offering their expertise in areas diverse as fintech, artificial intelligence, robotics, IoT, embedded technologies, web and mobile development. I invite all of you to visit the virtual exhibition, which is live now, and choose the technology that you need and select the partners for yourself. With these words, I once again welcome you all, and with great pleasure, let me introduce Mr. Nalin Kohli, Chairman IndiaSoft and past Chairman ESE, who actually conceived the idea of bringing small businesses around the world at a common networking platform 20 years back. And that's how we started IndiaSoft International IT Exhibition and Conference. Must say, very inspiring and very successful journey so far. And please join me in welcoming Mr. Kohli for his welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Buenos dias, my friends in Costa Rica, and good evening to friends in India. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this session. His Excellency Mr. Upendra Singh Rawat, India's Ambassador to Panama, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua. Mr. Paul Farroy, President Camtech. Mr. Gurmeet Singh, Executive Director, ESC, and friends from Costa Rica and India. His Excellency has a time constraint. I will not take too much time, but I would briefly like to mention that India provides the IT backend and support to all the large corporations of the world. Our larger IT companies like TCS, Wipro, Infosys, they are providing the IT to Fortune 500 companies and the Global 2000 companies. And now the world doesn't comprise of only Fortune 500 companies and Global 2000 companies. There are millions of small and mid-sized businesses all over the world who also have to adopt IT in a bigger way to stay competitive, be profitable, and survive as businesses. So what we have to offer from India is small and mid-sized IT companies companies who are willing to partner with you and who are willing to go across geographies, look at language issues, and look at smaller projects also, which large companies may not be interested in doing. So this kind of cooperation between India and Costa Rica is what we would like to bring to the table for you. We look at two opportunities. There are many solutions which have been developed in India. India in many ways also addresses larger sections of poorer people who cannot afford very expensive solutions. And so we have so many things which we can offer to you which are more affordable for your own population. It could be in education, it could be in health, it could be in e-governance, it could be in cybersecurity, and so these are things which are one kind of business we can do together. You need to, our partner in Costa Rica will have to do some customization, and you have a solution which can also be used there. The other area where I see an opportunity is that neighboring you is the United States, the largest market in the world, which has a very substantial Hispanic population. And we could also look at addressing that market in a collaborative fashion, where a solution can also be offered to them. You are in the same time zone and you have advantage of language for the Hispanic population in the United States. I had the privilege, we had uh, several years ago, Miss Annabel Gonzalez, who was the foreign trade minister of Costa Rica. She visited a India Soft Show and then she invited me to Costa Rica. And I promised her I'll come, and I did go to Costa Rica. And I'm so happy, that it was a very enjoyable visit. I saw your country, like the people, like the food, like the country. I see there is so much potential of working together. I will not take too much time. Our ambassador has, another meeting, so I will very quickly, start the program. I would introduce our ambassador, Ambassador Upender Singh Rawat, an officer of the 98 batch of Indian Foreign Service. He is currently India's ambassador to Panama, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua. Prior to his arrival in Panama, he served as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, where he was in charge of e-governance, information technology, and cyber diplomacy divisions. He has a degree in engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, a very prestigious engineering school in India. And as I mentioned, he has been looking after e-governance, IT, and cyber diplomacy. So he's the ideal person to promote Indian IT. And Mr. Ambassador, I would only request, our larger IT companies are already well known. This show is all about our small and mid-sized companies who are very keen to set up these partnerships. And we look forward to your support in promoting more cooperation between our small and mid-sized companies and Costa Rican companies who's wanting to use Indian IT, not only in their businesses, but also, as I mentioned, for US and other markets. So over to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kohli. And let me formally begin. Mr. Nalin Kohli, Chairman India Soft Committee and past Chairman ESC. Mr. Paul Farway, President Comtech Costa Rica. And our host compared today, Mr. Gurmeet Singh, Executive Director ESC. And all the participants. Thank you for ESC and Comtech to take interest in this meeting. And as Mr. Kohli just pointed out, I think both India and Costa Rica have significant strengths in the area of IT and the technology sectors. India is well known for its software and IT powers, and many of the big Indian companies like Infosys, Wipro, etc., they are already present in Costa Rica, and in fact, Infosys is in the process of expanding their business as well in Costa Rica. And as Mr. Kohli pointed out, that the focus of this meeting is more towards the medium and small size Indian companies. So I already know, like for example, this Hyderabad-based Indian company Fuji, which is a small company in IT sector, it already has a significant presence in Costa Rica. So we see that this area has a lot of potential for the two sides. Costa Rica is a strategic location because of the from this area you can cater in the same time zone the entire Latin America and North American market. But there is another advantage that Costa Rica has is compared to many other countries in Latin America in general, or particularly in Central America, that Costa Rica is a very tourist friendly country. The knowledge of English language in Costa Rica is much better than many other neighboring countries, and the technical education is also good. And these are the regions for which Indian IT companies, particularly in this region, have found Costa Rica to be a suitable country for basing their operation. And in addition to that, the country also has a very good business friendly environment. Government policies are very suitable, like and also not only that, Costa Rica is also in the front of tackling the climate change, and it wants to be the among the first countries in the world to reach to zero carbon emission status very soon. And it has a lot of free trade agreements, logistic hubs, and so all these advantages I feel are the give kind of opportunities for our IT companies to start their operations in Costa Rica through collaboration with the local partners, for which the COMTIC would be the best organization who can help in the process. The pandemic has changed the situation drastically, and the business model and the manner of doing things have changed over the last year. But these changes are occurring in a direction in which the importance of IT and technology is only increasing, and the potential in this area is even higher. And I am certain that this meeting will help in taking this process forward, and the embassy would be very happy, and we are looking proactively in working together with the both the sides, and see that there is more Indian companies who can come to Costa Rica, and as with vaccination and other measures to tackle the pandemic, as the international travel becomes easier, I'm hoping that this such meeting could be followed up with more direct B2B interactions. But more than that, I feel that Mr. Kohli and the team from ESC and some Indian companies, they can also visit Costa Rica sometime later on, and similarly Costa Rican side visit to India. So I feel that that part we can start also soon, and as because everything cannot be done virtually. And I once again thank ESC and COMTIC for joining hand with us to make this meeting possible. Thank you very much, and I will seek your permission to sign off in 1 or 2 minutes because I have some other engagement. Thank you very much.
Sir, please unmute yourself. You're on a mute. Kohli Sahab. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for your very encouraging remarks. We would certainly take the offer of bringing a delegation to Costa Rica. It would be a pleasure to visit this beautiful country And we would also like to invite a delegation from Costa Rica to come to India and meet our members. We appreciate your offer of support and putting us together with the industry association in Costa Rica. I would now request Mr. Paul Fairvoy. Mr. Paul Fairvoy is currently the president of CAMTEC, a dynamic IT association of Costa Rica. He has over 25 years of work experience in ICT. He has founded digital startups in the US and Latin America, where he led multidisciplinary marketing and engineering teams. He is a frequent speaker and teacher of digital marketing and data-driven marketing automation. His ICT interests and experience includes roles in industry, academia, civil society, and public sector organizations. I would just like to add that India has also now emerged as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. We have more than 50,000 startups, and the focus is on innovation. Excellency, I'm very happy to share with you. This is something which our secretary from Ministry of Electronics and IT mentioned at the inaugural address. Even we were not aware of this. There is a very popular app called, which is being used for purposes of COVID. And Arogya Setu is the name of the app with 120 million downloads. And this actually tells the citizen that he should, if he crosses the safe distance, he gets close to a contamination zone, and now it is also being used for the vaccination delivery. This app was actually developed by a startup with 15 young professionals working from their homes during the lockdown period. In a period of 3 weeks, it met very stringent specification laid down by the ministry, and 3 weeks is what they took for developing the app, which was extensively used, as I mentioned, during COVID with 120 million downloads. So this is the kind of talent pool we are having with a lot of focus on innovation. And this is one area where India and Costa Rica can work together for mutual benefit. Over to you, Mr. Fairvoy.
Okay, then I'll say goodbye to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you, Excellency.
Bye-bye.
Very good. Well, thank you again so much for the invitation to present a little bit about Costa Rica and the IT sector at this event, to have a chance to speak with your membership, talk with some of the businesses there. I think we have some of our members maybe even here on the call as well, so that we can open up a bit of a dialogue. Before we do that part, I'd like to tell you a little about the IT sector in Costa Rica. So, as you have mentioned in some of your introductory comments, Costa Rica is a small country located in the Isthmus of Central America. So this is that part of land that goes between the United States and South America. At the very top of it is the Mesoamerica, Mexico. Below us is Panama, and then you get into South America, Colombia, Ecuador, etc. So this group of countries in Central America, we're sort of right in the middle of that. Panama to our south, of course, is the country with the Panama Canal. They've obviously developed great expertise in fields of logistics, and financial sectors are very active, and they do also have a growing and robust IT sector. To the north is Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, and those would make up the countries of Central America. So just to give an idea of where we are. And then in terms of distance, somebody mentioned, we're in the same time zone as the United States. The United States switches because they use that daylight savings time. So right now we're on what would be mountain time. I think there is parts of Texas and the middle part of the United States is on mountain time right now. And then they switch and we end up on central time. So we end up being sort of Chicago in that area of the United States. So it's very convenient, as you mentioned, for businesses that are looking to do some development work in IT, to do that with companies in this part of the world because of that convenience of being able to pick up the phone and it's the same time. And it's also very close. So talking about Houston, that's a 2-hour flight from San Jose, Costa Rica, the capital city here. So, it's relatively close, so that when businesses are developing ventures, a lot of them are able to come back and forth, bring engineers to the States, visit their development centers here in Costa Rica, for example. And this has actually created a very robust, we call it sort of a dual economic motor model. So we have a lot of foreign direct investment in Costa Rica, companies that are setting up operations here. There are obviously free trade zone type operations for that. And then there is a robust domestic sector that is also producing IT services and products. So that's our model. We have these two sort of drivers of our economy. And it's become such an important part of the economy that this past year, obviously due to the pandemic, the economy was turned upside down as it was everywhere else. But the sector that really proved to be the most robust in our economy was the IT services sector, what we call knowledge exports. So our knowledge export sector grew by 7% last year, while many other sectors suffered declines in exports of other goods and services. So it's become an very important part of our economy. That said, this is a very small country, right? We're talking about a country whose total population is only 5 million people. For India, I would assume that at times it sounds hard to imagine a country smaller than many of your mid-sized cities, right? And so when that happens, that means you have to develop all of the competencies of a country at the global stage in something the size of what would be a mid-sized city for you, right? And you have ministers and presidents and all of these different roles, and you have to supply goods and services to the state. You have to do all of these things that many countries can do, but at a much, much larger scale. So there's some advantage to that as well. It means that it is a small ecosystem. You get to know a lot of the different players. You get to know a lot of the different actors. It means that there is very little distance between industry, public sector, academia. So we're basically able to very concentrate and focus our vision and strategic objectives as a country. That becomes perhaps a little easier to orchestrate because of the size of the country. So just to give you a sense of what kind of companies there are, I represent Camtic, C-A-M-T-I-C. Camtic is, based on its initials in Spanish, is the IT Business Association of Costa Rica. That's a private, nonprofit, voluntary membership organization, meaning in Costa Rica, the business sectors do not require membership in chambers or in business associations. It's entirely voluntary. We have a voluntary board that I am presiding over currently. And then we have a small staff, so permanent staff that works in our offices doing some things around promotion of the industry. So our membership in Costa Rica, the IT industry is probably only about 600 or 700 companies at this time. That's what we're able to determine, of which about a third of those are members of our IT Business Association. So there's about 200 companies that form a part of our organization. When we do surveys of the ecosystem, we're able to determine certain characteristics of these businesses. For example, the majority are micro and small businesses. So these are businesses of 5 or less people, very, very small IT shops. They're probably more in startup phase, and they're probably doing development of product, but not necessarily. They may also be service providers. So a big group of very, very small companies. And then if you add the medium-sized businesses to that mix, small and medium, micro, those make up about 95% of the companies in our IT sector. So again, these tend to be a very large group of relatively small, so less than perhaps 20 people in all. And then at the other extreme in our membership, we have very, very large businesses. Again, the influence of foreign direct investment skews that distribution, because we have companies here like Intel and Amazon and HP. So there are these very large shops that come to Costa Rica. They do maybe some back office, but they also do services and development centers here. And then those obviously have much larger population, IT and engineer populations. So again, a very small group of businesses. In total, the IT sector makes up only about 1 or 2% of the business park, so the business sector of Costa Rica. But we do have an oversized footprint. So even though we're only 1 or 2% of the businesses of Costa Rica, we're probably more like 6 or 7% of the workforce currently. And we're probably now somewhere over 20% of GDP. And the export imprint or footprint that I mentioned of the IT sector is probably now upwards of 30% of total exports. So again, small group of companies, relatively small size, with the exception of some very large foreign direct investment companies, but with a very oversized impact, not only on GDP, but especially on our exports. The IT services sector, the knowledge exports, has passed up other industries that you would perhaps associate with countries like Costa Rica. So in the agriculture sector, of course, there is things like coffee and pineapple and bananas that Costa Rica exports. So IT and knowledge services has surpassed those export products. You also think of Costa Rica as a tourism destination. So our exports and tourism is also a big part. And again, so when you think of Costa Rica now, it's really become not only a green economy based on things like those agricultural products, tourism, sustainable development, conservation, but it's now also a smart economy. It's one that's based on knowledge services primarily. When you look at the mix of companies in Costa Rica that are producing software or services or are exporting them, software development, the engineering of software development, those kind of engineering services is still the majority share of what's being exported, but that's also been changing in the last few years. In our business association itself, we've begun to see the rise of clusters of businesses that are now working together. We call them chapters. So within our industry, we have now chapters of businesses that have similar business export interests and needs, and they group together to help us as an industry create the vision and articulate the needs for their subsector. Some of those examples, for just to mention, to name a few, are cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has become very quickly one of the most vibrant and innovative sub-industries from Costa Rica. We have large foreign direct investment in cybersecurity, like IBM and Cisco, that have cybersecurity development centers here in Costa Rica. But we also have these smaller local domestic shops that are also providing cybersecurity products and services. And these have become one of the primary exports from our IT sector. So cybersecurity is one. Another one that has become of particular interest in the past year is in the IoT space. So the Internet of Things space. When I mentioned the foreign direct investment, and this is a little bit of a history of Costa Rica for you. Back in the mid-1990s, there was a large investment by Intel Corporation to develop microchips at a plant that was created here in Costa Rica. You may have heard of that story. So that obviously was big news at the time and certainly did become a huge part of our export economy. But you can imagine what happens when a company like Intel sets up shop and starts to do things like microprocess development. You start to get other adjoining areas of knowledge that you begin to develop a workforce. So you may have somebody that has been in Intel doing chip design or testing, and they begin to get other ideas and they move out into their own businesses and they start to create design and testing firms. And now those are starting to do that in the IoT space. So we're seeing this growth of companies doing IoT, both in components and software. Another one of the industries that we've seen growing quickly over the past few years is in fintech, so financial services and technology. A huge opportunity in our region, certainly, as you can imagine, the banking industry is somewhat behind the times compared to other regions. There's a lot of unbanked people that are not using traditional bank accounts. So there's a lot of innovation in the banking space. I know that India has many as well. So that's an industry as well that we're seeing a lot of development. So those were just to name a few of these areas where Costa Rica is beginning to sort of stake a place in designing and innovating in new solutions and services in cybersecurity, IoT, fintech, to name a few. So as an export industry, when I say that, I'm referring not only to the fact that it's become an important part of our export strategy as a country, it truly is the focus of a great majority of companies. So Costa Rica companies, almost by definition, are born with an export mentality. This obviously is perhaps redundant and sounds obvious, but when you're in a country as small as Costa Rica and you want to be innovative in IT services and solutions, it wouldn't make too much sense to focus your service and solutions on the domestic economy, right? There's just not that huge a marketplace. So they are immediately attracted to exporting. The initial export destinations that you would expect might be our neighboring countries of Central and South America because of language and similar culture, similar needs. However, the truth is that the major export market is the United States. And that market receives more than half of what the IT export industry is producing. So the United States has, by far become the marketplace that consumes the most of our IT and knowledge exports. And that's then followed by our neighbors here in Central America. So it is a balanced approach. We have the US economy. They tend to favor outsourcing models, team expansion, these kinds of dynamics, whereas Central American clients are probably looking for services and solutions out of the box, right? Turnkey solutions, something that they can receive and install and deploy. So it's interesting. It makes for a very diverse ecosystem where you've got companies that are versed in doing this team expansion models and others that are actually creating products to deploy for their end clients. So the US market followed by Central America market tends to be the way that our exports have developed. And as you can imagine, Costa Rica, being a small country as it is, does face some restraints. And those restraints tend to be around our capacity to produce enough knowledge-based workers that the industry requires. And sometimes it's a simple matter of numbers, how many engineers can the system produce. But at other times, it's really more a factor of what are the areas of knowledge that the engineers are being produced, and do they meet the needs? Are they pointing toward what today the companies are seeking to employ? And there's a little bit of both of those problems. So going back to something like cybersecurity, it's an area that has advanced very quickly in the approach and methods that are being applied. That takes time for academic centers, educational centers to catch up and produce that area of knowledge. So what we've begun to do is coordinate our efforts with other organizations in Costa Rica in education and public sector so that we can bring certification programs, training programs from outside the country. And now it's become sort of a way that we work commonly, where we are partnering with others who can help bring standard certification programs into the country. And ComTIC, our organization, can help facilitate, obviously, some of that. So I don't want to take up too much of our time so that we can have some questions and answers and talk a little bit about what are some of the opportunities. From my perspective, The opportunity, and I mentioned this to the ambassador on a call a few weeks ago and other members of the ESC, this is not an opportunity to sell, I don't believe, between ourselves. I don't think Costa Rica is a destination for Indian companies to sell to. I don't think that Costa Rica companies would find that it's easy to sell to the India marketplace. But who cares, right? That's not really the point. The point is we have diverse opportunities, we have diverse strengths, we have some weaknesses, each of us. And as we look at how those map together, they're actually very complementary. And they're complementary in that we should be looking at and talking about joint ventures, opportunities to co-invest and to create companies and services that reflect the strengths of both of our marketplaces, both of our pools of talent, so that we can together go to other new markets, whether it's the United States or, again, our neighbors to Central and South America. So I think the opportunity really is here to look at how do we organize between ESC, between ComTIC, how do we organize between the embassy that's in our neighbor country, Panama, represents this part of Central America. How do we organize these actors and create a joint investment opportunity? So maybe it's a center that just looks at joint investment between India and Costa Rica companies. Something that would allow us to really scale up quickly, find the connections, define the opportunities clearly, see where we have these mutual strengths and weaknesses where we can be complementary, and really, finish this problem, finish this task. Because if we can finish this task and define opportunities for co-investment, I think we can then, both parties, enjoy the benefits of being able to go to market quickly, especially in these new emerging technology areas that we've mentioned a few of on this call. So that would be my proposal to begin our conversation. And I think it would be interesting for me to hear about ways that you think we could achieve this. Thank you again for the invitation and the time to talk a little bit about what the Costa Rica market has to offer and how we could do business together.
Thank you, Mr. Favoy, for a very, very informative talk. And I get a good feel of what the IT industry in Costa Rica is. I couldn't agree with you more that we should not just look at the small market of Costa Rica, but we should look at strategic alliances and joint ventures, which create a bigger market in Latin America as well as in the United States. In principle, we always had this feeling, but we have not taken the next steps to actually implement these ideas. And so I think that's where we need to work together. Indian IT industry is very US centric. 60% of our IT exports goes to the United States. About 17% goes to United Kingdom. And the rest is, spread all over the world. And we are very keen to work for new markets. I would like to mention here that innovation does not see any boundaries. I'm sure there would be innovative companies in Costa Rica. The IndiaSoft show over the years has actually become the largest SME show for IT in the world. For the simple reason, as you mentioned, the numbers. We are a nation of 1.3 billion people. We are strong in IT. We have thousands of companies in IT and the whole world as a market. And so IndiaSoft, which originally started as a show for Indian exporters and global buyers, is now evolving into a global show, and we are giving it the name GlobalSoft. And we would actually, next year when we do a physical show, hopefully, we would like to invite companies from Costa Rica to come and also participate as exhibitors if they wish to do that, because this is a place where a lot of business will happen between small and mid-sized companies from all over the world. Having said that, we actually have to take specific decisions as to what are the areas where there can be complementarity, what exactly you would look from the Indian side, and then we can find the right partners for the Costa Rican companies. I think that's a good way to start the process. And thank you so much for sharing your insights into the Costa Rican IT industry. You want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to add, and thank you again for mentioning this idea of unlimited innovation, right? Which is really the moment that we're at. And I think there's really innovation unlimited in two different ways or frameworks. One is emerging technology itself, right? Technology changes. We're at a point where there's probably going to be a lot of change in the type of technology that we see being developed and deployed because of things like 5G technology, right? So we're looking at a moment of shift to a different way of working. That creates a lot of opportunity for innovation. So I think emerging technology is one of those drivers. And the other is the sectors, the industries to which we serve. So I mentioned fintech. In Costa Rica, there are, as there is in India, there are certain industries that are more adept to producing innovative solutions. So IT with tourism in Costa Rica is a great mix because there's a lot of tourism and there's a lot of IT, and they tend to work together, and it gives us a chance to come up with new solutions in the tourism sector. The same in conservation and what we're calling the bioeconomy. So the economy around biological diversity and services in Costa Rica. Again, it's a biodiverse country. There's been a lot of investment in not only conservation, but biological sciences. So that's a great opportunity, again, to combine technology and biology. So what I'm saying is we have technology itself as a driver, but we also have these industries that have probably not been sufficiently transformed to speak, or with whom we can create really the next generation of technology. I don't think that we're going to find the opportunities we're looking for if we're only thinking about technology as a product or service for others. It's as we mix it with these other industries that it really becomes something transformative. And I really believe that if we can do that task, we're going to find in our local ecosystems the other knowledge areas that allow us to really bring to the marketplace services and solutions of the next generation. So I'd like to invite that to be part of the topic of discussion.
Sure, absolutely. I would just want to share one small thing with you before we request Mr. Gurmeet Singh. Mr. Singh, do we have time for some questions?
I have some quick questions, maybe for 5 minutes. If somebody want to have any questions, yes, we can welcome that.
Mr. Farboy, I would just like to close with one small example which comes to my mind. A small country which is innovation hub for the world, and which is Israel. So I was in Israel, and this is a little before COVID, and a common friend wanted me to see a presentation by a startup there, which I did. And after the presentation was over, I asked this entrepreneur that what has been your experience about this solution in Israel? And he looked at me and he said, but we haven't sold in Israel. So he said, Israel is too small a market, and we actually want to launch the solution in India and in the city of Pune. So many times it is the size of the market which will also drive. I think you are very right. We are having similar, convergence between IT and a particular industry. India with its huge agriculture. We are looking at IT applications in agrotech. Of course, cybersecurity is very big in India because, as you rightly said, people are moving to formal banking. In our case, there were laws which encourage that, and now we have millions of new, bank accounts. and where cashless payments are now encouraged in the economy. So the need for cyber security really goes up. So there's many times no point in reinventing the wheel. You can look at customization, and you can look at profitable ways of working with each other for customization of a solution which would make sense for your market also. Similarly, you may have an innovative solution which can be customized for the large Indian market. So we'll be happy to take it forward, and I think we are on the same page. I think we can invite a few questions if they are there, and then I can request Mr. Gurmeet Singh to propose a vote of thanks, and this session can close, and we can have more B2B discussions. So if there are any questions, please identify yourself and please ask the question.
I would ask a question first, and this is of my counterparts there at ESC. What could a joint investment center look like? I'm imagining something that is just designed to promote joint investment between our mutual sectors. Maybe there's a center in India and one in Costa Rica. Maybe it's virtual, but something that facilitates co-investment. And it could be because it is helping define what it's an observatory of opportunity in marketplace, or it could be just that it facilitates encounter. But how could we do this? What is the gap that needs to be filled so that co-investment actually happens?
Mr. Farvoy, actually, this is a very good idea, but I must confess that we have not done it with any country so far. It happens on a company to company level on its own.
Yeah.
We have not institutionalized the process, but my experience is, particularly with the small and mid-sized companies, they would like to, first work as business partners for some time before they decide to invest in each other's company or invest in a joint venture. So what I would do is
we could call it sort of like maybe a consortium building process, right? It builds consortia, right? It could be joint projects, it could be shared services, it could be co-investment. There's many models, but it's a consortium goal.
That's right. So generally speaking, because the legal systems are different, people want to have more comfort before they get into a joint venture. Typically, it would start like a strategic alliance, which would lead to a joint venture. But yes, let's start the process. It is, people would be quite happy. As the ambassador mentioned, there's already one small company from Hyderabad who's already having an operation in Costa Rica. But I can just share with you that we encouraged our small and mid-sized companies to have a local presence in the US, which we facilitated. And more than 30 are already there, mainly in Virginia and Maryland. And now another 20 are in the pipeline. So we are associated with big numbers. We have thousands of members, and they are all keen. They are all keen to explore new opportunities. So in principle, see, if you start this process, we will see the interest and we will take it forward. Typically, it may start with a business alliance of doing something together, and it would lead to then co-investment for sure. Because once people develop comfort, they can then decide to set up companies and joint ventures and move forward. But in principle, I agree with you that we have to make a beginning somewhere. And for small and mid-sized companies, it is associations who bring them together and facilitate the process. Intel can come to Costa Rica on its own, or Infosys can come to Costa Rica on its own. But a small and mid-sized company would need a partner. And that is where you can, provide that support and also do some hand-holding so that both the partners are happy and they can take on from there. So thank you so much for your question also. And is there any other question somebody wants to ask? Both from Costa Rica side or the Indian side? We have a few minutes for some quick questions.
Hi, this is Anil, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Costa Rican Indian Association. And my question is, that can we look at a possibility of how we develop talent, especially in Costa Rica? So, is there anything we can think about how we could have that talent development training sessions, maybe tie-ups with certain universities we have here? Is that a possibility that this forum can think about?
Sure, sure, why not? Because, talent development, India produces engineers and IT professionals in very large numbers. And there would certainly be an opportunity. The only thing which comes in the way is probably the language issue, which needs to be addressed. But as far as technology and training, if it has to be done in English language, which I believe in the IT industry, most people would be comfortable with. So that can begin much faster. Yes, certainly we can facilitate that process.
Okay, no, brilliant. So I mean, I'm part of the Costa Rican Indian Association, so we will connect with Paul and the team here to see how we can work with the universities, wherein we can probably look at exploring some of those training and development opportunities from your side. So we will connect back on this point with you. Thank you.
Sure.
Just as an example, there was a recent initiative by the Costa Rican government to partner with Coursera, the online training platform. And it was focused on training 50,000 Costa Ricans in new technology skills. So they chose some AI and big data and cybersecurity. There were certain themes, and then they created this program to have people trained through that. So we know that there are opportunities to do this kind of scale up our training capacity, and I would be happy to help facilitate that conversation as well.
I know of some Indian companies, private companies, who are involved in skilling and on IT education. They are the first ones which come to my mind. Many of them are providing this service in all the ASEAN countries in a very big way, but I'm sure they have not explored Latin America, and we can facilitate that for sure. And India has thousands of engineering schools, and that kind of cooperation between an engineering school in Costa Rica with an engineering school in India can also happen.
Absolutely.
I don't see any issue there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now as we are a little, overshooting the time schedule that we had, so I would like to bring the inaugural session to a close, and I would request Mr. Gurmeet Singh to propose a formal vote of thanks. Mr. Gurmeet Singh is the executive director, the chief executive of ESC, heads our secretariat. And not only has he done a wonderful job in managing the secretariat, I would like to also compliment him, because this entire IndiaSoft operation, we used to outsource it in the beginning for a few years. Then the ESC Secretariat developed in-house expertise, and now they handle that show end to end on their own. So over to you, Gurmeet. Please propose a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for your kind words and generous introduction. With your permission, if you allow me to say so, I can see our very old and very close friend. It's a pleasure to see that Mr. Alex Mora is there with us today in today's meeting. So maybe if he can just want to introduce or say a few words before we call the first inaugural session to a off.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Mora is also very closely known to Mr. Kohli. And Paul, just for your information, I personally been there to Costa Rica almost, if I'm not wrong, more than 6 times. So I really love and cherish the memories that I have being in Costa Rica. We attended a few events that was organized under the leadership of Mr. Alex Mora, Procomer, Sinde, and we very closely work with them over the years with them. Mr. Alex, if you're there, would you like to say some few words?
Yeah, he's
Or
there. Go ahead, Mr. Mora. Go ahead.
Ms. Mora, you can unmute yourself.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So nice to see you, Mr. Mora. So good to see you.
No, can't hear you. Seems like some technical issue. He doesn't show as mute.
Hear me now? No?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So sorry, I don't know, something happened with my headset. No, just a very quick comment to congratulate both ESC and my old friends from ESC and Paul and his team for this initiative. I think it's the right time, especially because I think we have a growing number of common areas of interest between India and Costa Rica. And I think that what has been proposed here is very important. Just one quick comment, understanding the different scale between India and Costa Rica and between ESC and Cantic, I think that focusing on some specific initiatives will be important to make progress. So I would like just to suggest that Paul mentioned the chapters that Camping has created. And I think that if it is possible for ESC to identify counterparts, or if you have a similar structure of chapters or subgroups in ESC, I think this could be a easy way to make things moving. And Anil mentioned something that is very important, and is education. I mean, and training. I think that there's a great potential there, as well as fintech, which is another area in which we have to learn a lot of things from India. So, I wish all you the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you here. And Gurmeet, now we can close this session so that you can start the B2B.
Sure, sir. Sure. It is my proud privilege to propose a hearty vote of thanks to chief guest of today's gathering, His Excellency Mr. Umbedra Singh Rawat, Ambassador of India to Panama, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua. Sir, thank you very much for sparing your valuable time and sharing your thoughts with us. I'm sure with your guidance, relations between India and Costa Rica, particularly in the IT sector, will reach new heights. My sincere thanks to Mr. Paul Fovoy, President Camtech. Many of you may not be knowing Camtech is the Association for IT Industry in Costa Rica, and we are indeed thankful to Mr. Fovoy and his team for joining and supporting today's session in organizing today's IT Connect between Indian and Costa Rican member companies. Paul, thank you very much, and we look forward to very close cooperation with you, with Camtech, in the times to come. Special thanks to our old friend, Mr. Alex Mora. It's so good to see you after a long time, and thank you so much for sparing time and joining us today and share your insights. Thanks are due to Mr. Nalin Kohli, Chairman IndiaSoft and past Chairman ESC, for his able guidance and vision to bring us to the stage where we are today. And my special thanks to the colleagues from the Indian Embassy, Mr. Kishan Lal, for their crucial support in organizing today's interaction. Before I conclude, I would like to invite you over the virtual platform, which is the 21st edition of IndiaSoft, an annual event, flagship event of the council, which we are doing for the last 20 years. And this time, because of the ongoing pandemic, we are doing it virtually. And it is live until 31st of March. We have a URL, indiasoft.org. On the main page, homepage itself, you will find a link to the virtual platform. By clicking on this link, it will take you to the virtual platform. It's a separate website, which is indiasoft.wowfairs.com, which is a virtual event URL. and you can just sign in on the page itself. Your by default, your email is your login username, and you can choose any password of your choice, and any 4 letters, 4 figures, and you can just straight away log in from this. Once you enter, you will find a lobby, and in the exhibition hall you will find a very innovative small and mid-sized companies, almost 150 plus, which is offering a very innovative bouquet of services and innovative technologies in various verticals of information technology sectors. And I'm sure you will find very interesting companies to work with, to partner with. And some of them are very already have a customized products and solutions, which can be easily converted by partnering into a Spanish language. And you can look at the third world countries by partnering with each other. And even if you have any good product, you will find good partners to resell your products and services within the Indian markets. So we invite you to promote two-way trade, uh, find the right partner to work with, and I'm sure it would be a win-win synergy for both of you. And again, Paul, I look forward to work closely with you and see how we two of our organizations can work together in the years to come, and how we can do something for the benefit of our industry mutually, and to create a win-win synergy at both ends. With this,
Absolutely.
I thanks everyone for joining today's session, all our delegates, all our industry members from the Costa Rica and from India, and wish you all the best, a happy networking, happy business. And as we say, the IndiaSoft slogan is meet, connect, and grow. So welcome you all, and thank you so much for joining today's session. Now invite with the current sessions going to coming to an end. May request our very supportive mission, Mr. Kishan Lal, to please introduce the companies and take over the floor. Thank you so much once again.
Okay, thank you. I'll be signing off. Wishing
Sure,
everybody all the best.
sure. Thank you.
So much. Bye now. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful
Thanks, Paul.
activity.
Thanks.
You too.
Pleasure. Pleasure seeing you.
Thank you, Mr. Gurmeet. Thank you, everybody. I welcome the companies from Costa Rica to this B2B event, and I invite them to introduce their companies. So we have companies from name of the company. Let me see. Let me check from this. Yeah. There is Miss Gabriela Villalobos. Can you introduce your company, please?
Thank you very much. I'm Gabriela Villalobos. I'm an audiovisual producer, and I'm representing the sector of digital audiovisual sector. So let me give you a little introduction. The Costa Rican digital audiovisual sector has been expanded for several years due to the growth of world demand in that market. And currently, national audiovisual companies sell products and services to in international markets, especially the United States and Latin America. National companies have experience in audiovisual production, digital animation, augmented reality, virtual reality, and some others. Costa Rica has all the conditions to be the production partner for India companies for their expansion to Latin American markets. Having the experience and support of Bollywood to generate a regionalized offer can make a market of 60 million people accessible to synergies between companies in India and Costa Rica. In addition to this, in the coming months, the country will have an incentive project that we are sure will be a great interest to the audiovisual sector to your country to further encourage relations between the audiovisual sectors of both countries. I hope this is something that you can look up, the people that is in this sector in India too, because we know it's a big one. So thank you for the opportunity, and maybe we can make some business together.
Thank you, Gabriela. We have Mr. Rigoberto Mora. Uh, I invite Mr. Rigoberto Mora. I understand that he has to retire from this meeting. So whatever time he can give to this meeting, please.
Thank you very much for your invitation. Cuisine is a company that has 25 years of history here in Costa Rica. Our focus is developing and reselling solutions for telecom markets and IT software for operating needs in any market. We already have experience with Indian companies since 2012. We resell a lot of software of Indian companies, and it was a great experience. We learned a lot of Indian culture and how to do business with these big country companies. So we are very interested to develop applications for, especially for 5G and IoT markets here in our country and in Central America. We think that Costa Rica is a great anchor in order to develop regional solutions for the rest of the countries of Central America. And we're very excited to know that there are other companies from India interested to do business with us. And for sure, we are open to any other contact with your excellent Indian companies in the IT arena. So appreciate for the opportunity to be in this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see from the list there are some more names. So could I request them to introduce themselves, because I cannot identify the names of the companies. Please. There is one Joaquin. I don't know whether this company is from Costa Rica. There is one Olga. Okay. So I suppose there is no more company from Costa Rica. I request any other company from Costa Rica or from this region who wants to introduce their company. No. So that's all, Mr. Gurmeet. Yeah, Mr. Gurmeet, I cannot find any other company, any other speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krishan Lal. So now with this, we would like to end this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kishanji. This is Vikrant speaking. Thanks a lot for all your support.
Welcome.